As always, it is absolutely wonderful to see you and to see your note takers. And perhaps we'll see one or two of you if you choose to go on video. Thank you for keeping yourselves muted for now. At the end, when we have the opportunity to ask Debbie questions or share ideas and comments, then we'll invite you to unmute. Otherwise, you can just put your comments and your questions in the chat. So, yeah, thank you, Morag. It's so nice to see a face in the room. And I'm really excited about today because Debbie and I had such an interesting conversation. And I thought I can't wait for people to hear more about this, whether you're working in a corporate team for talent acquisition or whether you're working in an agency environment. I think it's going to be so valuable. Everyone is trying to figure out AI. And I think in a recent conference that I was looking on LinkedIn for PAX 8 for the company that Debbie works for, they're talking about how organizations are rethinking how they innovate and how they grow with AI. And so, no better person to share with us than Debbie, who is VP for Global Talent Acquisition. And it talked about over 30 countries being present at that conference. So, if anyone knows the breadth and the depth of implementation, then it is you, Debbie. So, we really want to welcome you today. I'm excited to be here. I'm normally training companies on how to attract and select the best talent, and AI is playing such an important role in that at the moment. So, yeah, we look forward to hearing your ideas. And I know you've even got some slides ready. So, super, super excited. Welcome, Debbie. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Jane. Hello, everyone. Just a joy to be here. Lovely to see your faces. Oh, do come on with your faces as well if you can, because I'm a very human-centric person, so I love to see you all. Yes, delighted to be here and see some of my team here as well, which is really good. I'm excited. So that's comforting because these things they always rattle me slightly. Um, gosh,
Yes.
I guess
And
I.
you are human centric, Debbie. I think even in your LinkedIn profile, you
Mm,
put that you are human centric. I think it comes right after your job title of being VP of Global Talent Acquisition.
yeah.
And I know just even speaking to you, you're such a human person, and I really love that about you.
Oh, thanks, Jane. And I think that's why we're all in the TA business, isn't it? Because we change people's lives. And it's that
Yeah.
reflecting back that you've done that. That's where we get our motivation from a lot of the time. So yeah, lovely to be here. Good
Mm.
opportunity for me to kind of look back and go, okay, what have I missed? Where are we? And oh my goodness, how far we've come as well. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You were saying that, and I think there's been so much that you've been busy with.
Mm.
And so perhaps you could even start us with, I mean, I know AI has been on everyone's radars for a while, and hopefully we don't have too many people still waiting to implement.
Mm.
Hopefully most people are doing something with AI by now. But at what point with your teams that you have globally, did you start really implementing different tools and seeing how they work? What has your journey been like with that so far?
So interestingly, our journey is started at the beginning of 2025 when we had a massive HR transformation for our business. And
Mm.
really, I spent the first 6 months of 2025 thinking deeply about where the company was going and how we were going to achieve its goals. And then that kicked off with July of last year when we kicked off a Workday recruiting implementation to go in on Workday with the rest of the business. So we wanted one human ecosystem that could track all of the data from hire to retire. And that was the start of our AI journey because we could see AI coming over the hill. We're a technology company. So yeah, that's where we started. But do you want me to
Mm.
flash up the slides and we can go through the story?
Yes, yes, please do. And also, Debbie, as you're going through the slides, please also, what I really love is your foundational thinking, and the lenses through which you view AI. So please also help us to understand how you see AI
Yeah,
and where you see its value add. That would be really helpful. Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay. Okay, so health warning, first of all. There are no perfect companies and there are no perfect people out there. Do I have all the answers? No. Are we fumbling and feeling our way through this? Absolutely. Um, I want to keep it real as well because there are so many unknown knowns. And I always think we put ourselves under so much pressure because of the urgency that everyone is feeling. Try and set that aside and just do what's kind of right. But my thanks today have to go to my entire TA team for the journey that they've been on with me. Obviously, I set the vision, I set the strategy, but the execution is really down to my entire team and their colleagues in the people team in general. So I have to first start with that and say we wouldn't be where we are today without some really talented individuals in the TA team and all the hard work. But of course, I do have auditor's fingers. So I've been in talent acquisition now for 30 years. I know every touch point that happens. We've got new tooling coming in. I can still see the golden threads from one tic-tac-toe move to another tic-tac-toe move. I can see the upstream, downstream, and left and right kind of consequences. So I'm like the all-seeing eye for my team there. So yeah, that's my health warning there, I think, at the start. So I think just to give people context, who is Pax8? And this context and intent you'll find is a really, really piece of important thinking that runs right the way through everything that you do when you are transforming as an AI native organization or as an AI enabled talent acquisition function. Your first thinking must be, what is my context here? And what is my real intent? Because you can veer off down some really deep holes if you don't have that thinking at the start. So just for context, very briefly, Pax8 is in its simplest terms a marketplace where IT businesses buy, sell, and manage software for small to medium businesses. And our marketplace is evolving to enable everyone to buy, sell, and manage agents through our platform. So we've got $2 billion revenue run rate. We've got 47 IT businesses who we call partners. We've got 150 vendors selling everything from AWS to security software. They are all serving 800,000 or more SMBs. And we do all of that with just 1,800 employees across 17 countries. So there's not a huge amount of us. And our mission is to bring that digital workforce to every SMB. So that's kind of our context. We have a COE structure. We have, in the last 2 years, condensed nearly 30 HR point tools down into one massive HCM, which is Workday. We cover 3 regions in TA, America, APAC, and EMEA. Last year, we did about 600 hires, so not huge compared to some organizations out there, but it feels big to us sometimes. And we have about a 20% internal mobility. So that's really, really important to us, internal mobility. And I think if you're an agency out there, you've got to bear that in mind. It's a trend that we're seeing. It is going to be easier to bend and flex our internal talent than to buy in external talent sometimes. So you need to be watching for that, or they're good hunting ground for you. Foundational thinking. It sounds really fundamental and simple, business outcomes first. And as I was reading through it this morning, it's like, what about the people? Yeah, but the people won't exist if the business outcomes don't deliver what they are. So our business outcomes were, how do we build a business that is going to 10x or 15x in the next couple of years? That's the context in which we're operating. So super, super important. How do we do that today without multiplying headcount, multiplying complexity, and rapidly increasing costs? So we've got 1,800 people. It's like we've got to 10x our revenue and not kind of expand that. So, and what does that mean in the context of AI native? And that's going to be different for every single business out there. Our AI native journey is going to be different from another business's AI journey because you're all doing different things. So you really need to get under the foundational thinking of what is your business doing to transform in an AI way? What are the internal and external forces that are going to impact it? And then I took that down another level because we've had 14 years of growth. We have luckily grown our talent base through attracting people who we're not at the top dollar range. So we've attracted a lot of hungry grower and learners, which means that we have a natural growth pace, innovation pace, hungry learner pace. But we needed to remap what I call our talent DNA to know, well, what are the anchors that really drive business impact across that entire talent team. And that was that new DNA that we needed meant that we are going forward and are going to need to hire humans who are multipliers of that collective Pax8 ecosystem. So it's not just about individual output anymore. And there was a real realization for me on the TA side. I think we've always been undervalued by businesses, haven't we? But suddenly TA now is the amplifier of every talent that we bring into the business. So if it's wrong with AI, that talent either gets amplified in a positive or negative way. So TA as a business value creator is really at the forefront of the front door for that AI native talent coming in. And it's going to be in really, really short supply out there as well. So I have this probably not very proper analogy that our best talent internally we'll have to treat it like Wagyu beef. We'll have to feed it milk. We'll have to stroke it. We'll have to get really, protective about the internal talent that has these skills so that it doesn't get poached by external. But that's me, the in-house head on. I'm sorry, agency people. I do have an agency background as well, but hopefully that you got to think about your strategy there as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
So we did 3 phases of our AI transformation, which started in 2025. AI assisted, do more. AI augmented, do better, which is where we are today in 2026. And then do differently in 2027. AI superpowers, democratize hiring across the entire organization. That's a scary phrase for a lot of people, isn't it? But what did we do
Mm.
in 2025? We're really lucky. We have a Microsoft relationship. We had early access to Copilot. So we gave it to all of our people and we said, go experiment. While we were doing that, I've always been a strong proponent of knowing your process racy to the nth degree. We have a massive spreadsheet with every work stream, all 114 work streams, every task mapped, every dependency, how long it takes, what it's connected to, what tool it's connected to, who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, and who's informed. And I cannot emphasize that more highly. If you don't have a spreadsheet with everything that you're doing on, it's going to make your life really difficult. So that was the thing that we had to do. We were pretty good with it, but we needed to map it to the nth degree. And when you give your TAs or your recruiters Copilot and go experiment, go build something and go fix a problem. It's fantastic. You suddenly realize who gets really savvy, who gets really frightened. But my lesson there was before you know it, you've got 20 job advert agents running around the business and you have to pull all your jobs down from the website because they're all different. And somehow one of your job agents picked up a benefit in APAC and stuck it in the American area. So that was a really good lesson. Build your job advert agents, control them, make sure they are scalable across all the different regions, and make sure you have governance and control and one person responsible for that, and test again, and monitor as well because they do develop hallucinations. So that was really interesting. So we had to control the chaos a little bit there. We had to identify the dependencies, and don't underestimate the value that boring, racy process mapping Excel spreadsheets. It is gold in there. It's really, really, really incredible.
Mm.
It helps you literally, you will find yourself in that spreadsheet every day going, hang on a minute, people systems have just done something down there. What does that mean for us? Oh, hang on, they've just merged the offer letters. What does that mean for all the things that we've got connected to that on the system? I think the other thing that was a lesson for us this year that we're still working on, and I would like to say, we are still building all of this. We've got the infrastructure in as of the end of this month, but we're still building it and iterating it. The other thing was build your brain. All of the things that you're doing with agents will need the single source of truth. So the brain that you build in terms of content management is really important. And again, as you're mapping that process, you can be putting in all the assets that you've got against that process to help direct agents to tell it how it should be done. So that content curation is really, really important. So the brain management of the single source of truth on your agents and your systems, really, really important there. Governance, well, I'll cover that shortly as well. I completely underestimated the work involved in governance, risk, and compliance. We've got a legal team, they're phenomenal. Um, Imagine how they felt when I told them that I'd just locked in a piece of software that was subject to a class action in the US. I mean, there were a lot of concerned calls around, well, what do you think? How is it gonna play out? Why did we buy it? How do we audit it? How do we pull the plug on it? All of those questions kind of come out. So really, really fascinating. And then in 2027, we're still working on this, but what does recruitment look like in 2027 as well? We'll come on a little bit more to that, but I'll pause there for a moment. Jane, have you got any questions
Hmm.
that you're catching for me?
Yeah, I think what I really love is right from the start, Debbie, is you talk about the importance of that brain management
Mm,
and how you see the people that you hire and the people in your team as critical to the future performance of your AI,
yeah,
and that it's not just about making processes faster or more efficient.
yeah,
It's really about the quality and how the human influences that quality. So then it's even more important who you hire and how they train the
yeah,
AI that you're using.
yeah,
I don't know if you're still coming to it, but I did also love the way you describe different tools and systems that you've used at different stages of the process.
yeah.
That's also fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that now, actually. So this is our tool stack. And I talk about onions, layering the onion, because that's what we do in TA is we peel back the onion layers to every talent that walks through our door and understand what makes it tick, how it ticks, what its hopes and dreams are, and how it's going to impact our business. So I took that approach with the tech stack that we put together. Obviously, Workday, recruiting, ATS. There are don't go to Reddit if you're looking at Workday. It's not a happy place, Reddit. I stay out of there if I can, but it is not a perfect system, but it is a phenomenally powerful system around data and as a system of record. So that's our spine, if you like. And we are still taming that monster. It is quite a monster, but we will get there by hook or by crook. We had to put in Rooster, intelligent scheduling system, really piece of efficient stuff. There are lots of agents out there that will, go off and do all the things for you. But it's like, how do we control that? How do we, how do we get the data from that? And I want to see data for everything that we put in. So that was really, really important. So in January, for example, we booked 530 interviews. Candidates are now, I'm seeing it rise from the self-scheduling. We had, when we started, maybe 25% self-scheduling by candidates. That has risen to 50%, and it's still rising now. So I think candidates out there are starting to get used to scheduling automatically or, self-scheduling themselves. So that's there. Then we locked in our most contentious piece of software, which is Hired Score, which makes fetching, matching, and scoring really easily. So suddenly we now have this amazing database of individuals. We can fetch, match, and score literally at the click of a button, um, uh, which gives us return on investment for the database for everybody that's applied to us, helps us find them more easily. But that tool requires a heavy hand on training it. What is right for a PAX 8 in product and engineering, in marketing, that tool really needs training on what good looks like for PAX 8 in order for it to score properly. And again, we have to look at the governance about it's easy for lazy recruiters to just take the top A scores, but what is our human defensibility around looking at B's, C's, and D's? What's our sampling done there? Have we got that scoring right? So that's a piece of software that's still evolving, was quite complex to integrate, but it's in, and we're wrangling that one into a better mode as well. And then we've got Bright Hire pre-screening. So we looked at a couple of pre-screening tools, and this is really about how we give every human that applies to join us a good shot at telling their story in fairness. And I think I talk about storytelling kind of later, but the storytelling opportunities that you give candidates is going to be really important. And this is where everyone says, oh, well, TA is going to be reduced. I buck the trend on that one. I don't believe it, because I think the talent we want is going to be in such short supply. We're going to need human to human interaction to be able to court and engage and excite and inspire. So I'm going to go against the trend. Um, there are loads of CEOs out there who say, well, your TA, you can operate with 50% less. I'm unpolitically correctly going to call BS on that and say, I don't think you're seeing the full picture there, because the scarcity of talent that you want is going to be so hot, probably hotter than anything we've seen before. And it's going to be not just about the money, it's going to be about the vision and the mission. And you can't do that with a single bot. It's not believable, really, at the end of the day, is it? So that's our pre-screening, which is your, where are you located? Have you got the right to work? And now, when you put them into your role qualifying, tell me about, things like, tell me about your story of the most complex project that you've done. Author for me your story behind why you found your career in this space. So you're looking for them to really sell their humanness there and not just respond on a chat GPT area. So I think that's really going to be important. And then the last piece is the Bright Hire, again, video interviewing. This is the most exciting piece of software I think I've seen in 20 years around its capability. It has the capability to free up our talent acquisition people and our managers to just sit with the human in front of them and just talk. It's capturing all of the notes. It's joining up the dots between the job description, the kickoff brief. It's assembling the notes against the interview scorecard that you've done. It's flagging this person has another counter offer potential, all of those kind of things. This tool is now starting to bring forward for us. So it's doing the heavy brain thinking, whilst we at the front are just focused on, the real human. And then alongside that, outside of this tech stack, we've got Copilot and Claude doing all the things that we want to do, like, oh, let's just refine this job description, or let's just simplify this job brief for the rest of the interview panel, all those kind of things. So that's our tech
Mm.
stack there.
Mm.
On Hired Score, our goals are fetch, match, and schedule in 3 days. That's my goal. That's the pace. I know it's bonkers, isn't it? But that's the pace at which we're going to have to run at in the future to get to the best talent the fastest.
Mm.
Oh my days. So it's quite exciting, really, isn't it? But it's also bonkers at
Mm.
the same time.
But Debbie, I do think you're speaking to why so many companies lose top talent. It's because they move too slowly, and they've always moved too slowly as one of the issues is, in attracting people, and people accept other offers before they've even finished, stage two. And so I love that you're looking at how you can increase the speed and the pace, but you've got such a strong focus on the human side
Mm.
and on people telling the story, because as we know, all companies are saying all the candidates look the same because they're all using AI to put together a CV. And now, how do we tell one from the other? How do they stand out?
Yeah.
So you're really looking to enable them to have an opportunity to stand out by telling their stories.
Yeah.
And I love that you're looking at tools that are not just efficient for you, but also create a candidate experience
Mm.
where candidates are best enabled to tell their stories.
Yeah.
because the quality of our engagement influences the quality of their engagement. And we can miss top people just because we're engaging in a way that isn't connecting.
So
So
true.
I really love that you see both sides and you see the impact of both sides.
It's a real balance, isn't it? And that goes back to,
Mm,
you know, are you building your tech stack for efficiency or are you building it for quality of signal? And you have to build both of those. I think,
mm.
um, um, gosh, Jane, like you tee me up for the next slide about, let's talk about CV sameness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell us.
And I think
Mm,
on that, you know, we talk about advertising. So it's more important now to advertise your DNA, the DNA that you are seeking in the talent that you are drawing into you, than ever before. And now, for example, I've had in discussions with our marketing department because suddenly we need to make our career site um, searchable for agents. It's coming. My career
yeah.
agent searching out there for the right kind of company for me to join. And it won't just be on salary. It will be on how do I make an impact? It will be on who's the best manager I want to mentor. It will be on what's the mission? Does it matter to me? All of those things. So we're gonna have to recreate, and again, we got to do a rebuild of our career site to advertise and appeal to the DNA that we want. And then also collecting those signals at all stages in that stack. And again, going back to the onion layer tech stack that we're looking at, it's like, how does someone engage at application review stage? How do they respond when you ask them for a story? Because within our DNA is contextual storytellers. If you can't give me a context and a storytell at my application front end, and you just put in any old thing to get through the application process, I'm not really sure that you're going to fit within our DNA moving forward. So the
Mhm.
signals that you're collecting outside of the CV become really, really important. And the ability of your tech stack to join up all of those signals into a quality decision for your humans to make, it suddenly becomes really, really important. So we got some TA training, retraining to do there as well, because suddenly your transactional recruiter who's sifting 500 CVs in a couple of days and screening, suddenly that's no longer enough. Your system will flush out the most the most obvious signals, and your TAs will now be looking at the stories and joining up the dots to your DNA and your company mission. So I can see TAs really becoming talent agents and talent concierge for matching both sides of that. We always match, but I think we've had to become so light touch in areas, and I think with AI we've got an opportunity to rebalance that. So yeah, storytelling
Mm,
and peeling back the onion layer. So that's surfacing stories around skills, achievements, growth velocity, the impact scope that those people have had, the leadership behaviors, stories, all of those kind of things at interview suddenly become possible to talk about because the system is doing all the other heavy lifting for you.
yes. Yeah, and Debbie, I think as you're saying, and as we were speaking about TAs also needing to perhaps be retrained in some areas because their value add might look different with these different tools and systems and approaches. So what do you see as the real value add for your TA people that you would want to amplify in light of their collaboration with Bright Hire, all these other tools?
What I want it to be, and this goes back to us not being perfect because we're still on our journey. We've got three different regions, and it's very different. In Europe, it's very forensic. In America, it's very volume driven. The market there is huge.
Mhm.
It's not, it's quite possible to leave your job open and have 1,000 applications within the space of 3 days. Um, so what I really want for our TAs is to be human and not transactional.
Mm.
And we're forced to be transactional sometimes with the volume. So again, going back to advertising the right DNA, we don't want everybody to apply out there. We want the people that we want. So narrowing down the breadth of who we are appealing
Mm,
to is going to become really, really important to give our TAs the time to enjoy the humans, to make
mm,
qualitative decision, and to give our hiring managers time to spend getting the decision right rather than
mm,
just filling a bum on a seat.
exactly. And I was speaking to someone the other day who was saying that where they think companies are going wrong is just using AI to be more efficient and get through the processes quicker. But I'm still hearing messages from companies saying, if you don't hear from us in 2 weeks, please consider your application unsuccessful. And that's so unnecessary with what we have now.
Yeah.
We really are able to personalize every candidate's experience and at the same time give recruiters and TAs the time to enjoy a more human experience with the candidates who are shortlisted and who do move through that pre-screening.
We, if I'm to be honest, and this is where the vendor, the software, the HR software vendor world just doesn't help us. So we are constrained by the system sometimes. Like,
Mm,
for example, on the workday at ATS, you want to send out a disposition notice. You don't want to send it at 2 a.m. in the morning when Workday decides with its servers that it's going to send that. It's like, that's
yeah.
not acceptable. Um,
Mm,
so um, I don't, it would be great to give everyone a reason, but at scale,
mm,
that does not scale. And then we open ourselves up to lawsuits around, oh,
yes.
you said this and that's discriminatory, all that kind of stuff. So
Mm,
really hard. There is no excuse for not letting people know that they're no longer in consideration. That's not an excuse anymore. And
yeah.
I
Yeah.
do know I'm a real nag on this because we've got, hiring managers who take their time and we're like, we've got 500 people in this pot. It's like make the decision so we can get those notified or,
Mm,
so we constantly struggle with that, but there's no excuse to not let people know now with the technology that we have.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, I wanted to also let people know just kind of risks. There are some dark forces out there right now that we need to be aware of. So where there is no human in the loop on your tech or TA stack, and when you're falling down into that transactional road, there are bad actors out there that are infiltrating every country. We did a review of our processes on where the risks are for bad actors getting into the organization. We found 56 risk points in our hiring process, and we have locked in 86 different control points. Had some
Wow.
interesting conversations with our CISO around how do people get into the organization? What if this happens? And I can tell you, he wants to go back to the 80s and do in-person interviewing. And I'm like, no, it's not going to work because we're hiring in a remote first market. So how do you make the compromise there? So again, it's that friction and balance, humans versus, tech needs, but easy for dark forces to slip into your tech stack if you are not kind of building for that. So. Um,
Yeah.
all right, this is
Exactly. And as you say, it's building for it. It's not just waiting for it and then responding when it happens.
so onto TA structure.
Mm,
So it became obvious probably October, November of last year that we were going to need to adjust how TA works with all the tech that we're putting in. And this is kind of the direction. I'm not saying this is fixed and firm, but it's certainly the direction that we're going for. We're going to need some heavy support on workflow, automation, recruitment operations, and people who really understand talent acquisition. So they need to be domain experts there. And then our
mm,
talent partners will become those real talent advisors. So working more closely with BPs, working more closely with talent management. So I see our TA partners elevating their skills and their craft to become more all-rounded talent advisors because they should hopefully have the time to do that human engagement with both candidates, hiring managers, BPs, talent management people, all of that kind of stuff. There's a huge amount of transformation going on, so that's really important. And then the only area, candidly, that I haven't got covered properly at the moment that is sucking time from TA is that community managing our communities of people that we think will be interested in us, and sourcing as well. That's our next look up in terms of that's really where we need to go. But for any vendor out there watching, I
Mm.
don't have any budget left for this year, so we might have to manually crank that one. My CFO is like getting nervous.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
this is a brain dump really, but to help you understand how it work, how it all hangs together. Workday is the backbone, system of record. We have a hiring methodology, that's the master prompts, the brain, if you like. There's a data layer, and then we've got that intelligence services layer. So do we have an agent tooling shop for, the job advert agent? Is it working for us? Do we have an agent monitoring compliance, audit, and governance against, TA process? How do we design, uh, reformat user experience, all that kind of stuff? But this is kind of how I see the agent human structure kind of moving forward.
Mhm. Sure. So interesting how every aspect is being impacted, Debbie. And I think you are progressive in seeing how you can restructure your team. What are the real value adds that you need? And yeah, that people might be now working in different roles with different job titles, because you need something different from them than you did before.
Yeah.
And I know you're working in an internal team, globally, corporate. And I have had people in the agency world say to me, sure, I'm wondering whether we need to start restructuring our offering in terms of what roles agency or, outsourced providers play. I know you're not in that environment now. I know we haven't discussed this before, but I'm wondering whether you have any just insights or ideas for people who are in a different environment and how they might think about restructuring their teams or their roles as outsourced providers.
Yeah, I absolutely think it's going to happen. I think I can't the big outsource providers. I'm not so familiar with that world, but it's very much been done. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because my impression is there's a lot of transactional work done. Um,
Mm.
will they? I can see them kind of having to follow this model. The transactional work will move into a tech stack. The human work, the talent partners amplifying that. Uh, I Coming from an agency world, a lot of the work that I've done has been built on what I learned in agency, which I'm supremely grateful for. So I think even this, the way that this structure works would apply to an agency potentially. Um,
Mm.
yeah, how it works on the client side, will clients be able to access spot tools? Will they be able to just put a Claude bot in and say, go find me Fred Blogs, my new DevOps engineer? Potentially, but is there risk on there? Absolutely, there is. Do you
Mhm.
trust that? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. But
Mm.
you build a recruitment agent, you can come in and put it on our platform and serve all our SMBs. So, maybe you're gonna have to wholesale look at your business model, really, aren't you? Um,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Do you cut it up and chunk it down into discrete recruiting pieces? Do you still do full life cycle search? I don't know. The business models are under change everywhere, really, aren't they?
Mm. Yeah, I think so. And we're trying what works, what doesn't. As you say, being mindful of risks, because with everything new, there are risks foreseen and unforeseen. And so there's compliance, there's governance, there's all of that needs to be in place. Ethics, of course. And Debbie, I think it also, when we talk about this topic, then there's the typical response that people, I think, are still battling with, and that is the "Am I going to be replaced?" Question that comes up. And so, yeah, what is your view on who will be replaced, who won't?
Oh, and this one is so hard and it's really close to my heart as well because I've got a real range of recruiting abilities in my team. I've got some
Mm,
consummate, white glove human approaches, and I've got some brilliant, super fast, rack 'em, pack 'em, and stack 'em recruiters as well.
mhm,
I think I think there is room for everybody. I think
Hmm.
the most important thing is for every one of those human beings to be learning their new craft and experimenting and exploring to and being adaptable. Because if you are a
Yeah.
transactional recruiter and you can't adapt out of that mode, I genuinely believe that transactional recruiting, 10-minute screening, I genuinely believe that AI will replace that. Um,
Yeah.
but we're not walking bacteria for nothing, are we? Because we got to trust our gut reaction. There's still a gut
Mm,
reaction there. If I'm joining a new company, do I like what I'm feeling here? Can I taste this culture?
mm,
Trust
mm,
it? Do I believe it? I'm not going to get that from an AI bot. I'm still going to want that human to human
mm.
touch point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Touch point doesn't do it justice, does it, Jane? Because it's you can sniff it, can't you? Even on digital, it's like, this guy's selling me something, but I'm not buying it really. What is it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, yeah. And I think that that talks to what you mentioned about the human in the loop and when do we use human judgment? When does that override? And we know that our brains light up differently when we're talking to a human digitally, and even more so when we're in person. So, how we meet still impacts the way that we show up.
Yeah.
And so much is intangible. And just as you say, it's just sensed.
Yes.
And it's hard to measure that if
Mm.
we don't even know what we're measuring sometimes.
Goes back to my days when yeah, I was working for a whale conservation charity and and they found DNA in open water under vent, an underwater open vent. It's like that's gut stuff that you will never take out of the humans. But on gut stuff, let's talk about governance, risk, and compliance. I totally underestimated what we would need to look at, do, talk about, gather, understand, totally underestimated it. And full disclosure, we work with a lovely chap called Martin Redstone, who has helped us. We're in our third phase of this project here. It's been an absolute education, and I'm supremely grateful for his expertise here, but he's helped us walk through our entire TA stack, uh, how we evaluate vendors, how we audit vendors, how we understand and unpack the decisions that we make in every part of our hiring process. And I've not shared all of that with you on here because that's our kind of secret sauce there. But
Mm.
yeah, every task almost has to have a risk level when it's interacting with an AI um, uh, integration.
Mhm.
And again, it goes back to your hiring stages, so back to that lovely process map. What are you doing?
Mm.
How risky is it? Where is the decision? How do you involve the human in there? So I'm pleased to say that we kind of come out of that really, really well. Now we have to weave our human in the loop
Mhm.
elements more closely into our TA, the way that we operate. So there's some tweaking there, like for example, a hiring manager can't just look at all the bright hire interview notes and go with the bright hire decision. They have to, at the end of the interview, they have to fill in their scorecard as usual and say why they chose to hire that person based on the five major buckets of what we look at in our DNA. So governance and
Mm.
risk, really important. Um, Collate all the policies, most importantly, understand how and if you ever had to pull the plug, what impact that would be. And man, that is scary.
Yeah.
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 And actually, there was one more thing there that happened last week that I saw. America have decided that one LLM is completely banned. What if your vendor is using one of those LLMs and a government suddenly decides to hoik it out of operation?
Yeah.
Kind of a bit scary, that. So,
Yes. That is.
so
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And yes, Debbie, future prediction. Please speak to that.
future predictions. I was in a conference yesterday with about 100 other HR people, and there were a couple of businesses there who were already spending millions on token usage. So judgment on what you're doing with AI and how you're doing it and how you're structuring your prompts and what you're asking it to pull, all of that kind of stuff is going to be really, really important. Otherwise, you're going to spend on your tokens. We've got a people person in our team, and he's like, "Oh, I ran out of Claude tokens yesterday. How do I get more?" I was like, that's the budget." So that dependency on token usage is being baked in a lot of companies there. So you got to think about that token overspend. Um,
Mm.
the amplification of TA effectiveness suddenly is really important there. So if your TAs are not effective at using Copilot in the right way, suddenly your TA budget on tokens is gone. And that token budget per department is coming. I'm sure our CFO is working on that somewhere.
Yeah.
Other thing, I'd love to hear everybody else's views, but bot to bot action. I reckon that's going to be with us by mm, probably the end of this year, where candidate career bots will be talking to employer career bots. May the best bot win. And the best bot winning will depend on how you have built your brain.
Yes.
So that brain needs to be built with inside and outside in mind as well. And then the collaborations as well. We are upstream of talent management. And again, talking about TA amplification, if we get hiring the wrong DNA wrong, that amplifies the work that talent management have to do. It slows the business down if we don't put in really good people with the right DNA
Mm.
um, who amplify their effectiveness and don't drain the effectiveness around them of the rest of the business.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, I really like your emphasis, Debbie, on what gets amplified at this time
mm,
and the importance of the recruiter, the TA, and how that amplifies the good and the bad hiring decisions.
yeah.
And who we're hiring, then we were talking about this recently as well, digital twins. If
Hmm.
we hire someone and now a digital twin of that person who we hired is created, now we have two, either really good or really not good people.
So true. Yeah.
So, an interesting question that I don't know if there's an answer yet, but I'd love to hear your thoughts is, for example, if you do hire somebody and now in the future that you're hiring that person plus their digital twin, or their digital twin is created while they're within the employ of your organization, if that person leaves, how much of that digital twin do you still own? Or does the entire digital twin leave with them? Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh my goodness, that takes me down a rabbit hole. So that's a fascinating one. And I think we're maybe candidly, you're all experiencing that already with you've got access to your work co-pilot and then you've got your outside work co-pilot. It's like out inside Pax8 work
Mm,
pilots, like we just we've all had to sign attestations that no data for Pax8 goes external to the business without it being a public kind of thing. So
yeah,
but at the same time, it's like Saturday morning when I'm in bed on my personal laptop, I know that's really sad. But when I'm looking through, my recruiting brain food and going through all of that, I suddenly realized that it's only my gardening personality in my co-pilot and not my work personality in my personal co-pilot. So I don't know if we've got a challenge to solve on that one. So again, it goes back to the brain. I was on a
yeah.
Mind Valley masterclass that was teaching people how to build their personal brain to run their home systems, their marketing, their side gigs, and all that kind of stuff. So again, goes back to what you are feeding your co-pilot with in terms of the brain that you give it.
Yeah, such an interesting topic. And I think we're all on our toes and constantly adapting and questioning and yeah, having to navigate that now and going forward and all at a pace
Yes.
that none of us were prepared for or are used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Debbie, before we open up for any other comments or questions, is there anything else you want to add? Any other tips, ideas, cautions from your side? And thank you again for sharing all of your expertise and your learning journey so far.
My pleasure. I hope it's useful for everyone.
It is.
My closing comment would be that third point, get used to cognitive dissonance, which is being able to hold the polar views at both times. Are we going to face
Hmm.
an apocalypse? Our job description is going to disappear, our CV is going to disappear. Do we have more opportunity? In which case, we're going to need more humans. I am holding all those polar views in my head at the same time. My brain is like spaghetti. Have I got AI fatigue? Look after yourselves, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, but yeah, what a wild ride.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing more and more people go on leave and say, I am detaching, detoxing. So it's very intentional how people are choosing to relax and get away at the moment. It does take more from us.
Yeah.
Sure, thank you, Debbie. I have so loved this conversation, and there's so much that I want to go back to and think about more, and whether we are recruiters, TA, candidates. There is so much that is changing so fast that we want to do now and in preparation for the future. So I so value your time, your expertise, your generous sharing. Thank you so much once again.